This is an example of pocketing in Mastercam. The part that we have on the screen here is a fairly simple part with an internal pocket that has an island in it. So let's look at the first pocketing operation. If we select our Operations Manager here from the Toolpath menu, we can see that our first pocket here is selected as a pocket, but it's also set to facing. So let's select just this toolpath, turn the toolpath display on, and let's look at what we're doing. We're using this toolpath to face the top of the part. And let's look at how we do that. If we click on the pocketing parameters, you can see that our pocket type is set to facing. And if we click on the facing button, we can see that the overlap percentage, or the percentage that is going to overlap the outside of our boundary, is set to 50%, telling us that our overlap amount is 0.25, and we're using a 0.3 approach distance and a 0.3 exit distance. If we go into the tool parameters, you can see that we've got a 1/2 inch flat end mill selected. We're not using depth cuts in this case, although we could, and we're set to climb milling. If I click on the roughing and finishing parameters, you can also see that I've got this set to rough it out in a zigzag pattern, and we're not doing finish pass spacing around the outside boundary. So we say OK, and let's backplot this. And as I press S on the keyboard, we can watch the tool feeding across the face of this part. If we take that same toolpath and we click on the Verify button, let's go in and make sure that our job setup values are correct. Now if I turn down speed a little bit and press play, we can watch as the tool comes in and just faces off the top section of our part. So facing is one of the pocketing options we can do. Let's go ahead and turn this toolpath display off. And let's look at our next style of pocketing, which is island facing. Notice that for the island facing we have 2 chains selected for our geometry. If I click on the chain manager, we can observe those. I've got the outside contour of the pocket selected, as well as the top of our island. Let's look at some of the parameters now. Let's look at the pocketing parameters. You notice that the pocketing type is set to island facing, and when we set it to island facing, it also gives us our overlap percentage and overlap amount. We can see that our approach and exit distance from the island is 0.3, and the stock that we're going to leave above that island is 0.0. We're actually going to finish that island at this step. We can see that we've got our depth cuts button turned on. The maximum rough step that our tool can take is 0.25, 1/4 inch, and we're going to do one finish pass of 50 thousandths of an inch at the final depth. If we look at our roughing and finishing parameters, you can see that the roughing style we've chosen is a parallel spiral with step over percentage of 45%. We're going to do one finish pass, and we're going to finish the outer boundaries of our pocket. So now let's go into the Verify, press play, and we can watch as the tool goes around and machines out the inside of our pocket. This is its first depth pass. You can see it as it goes around. It's going to make its second depth pass. Notice that it comes across here and does a finish pass on the top of our island. And the tool is going to continue to work in the pocket, doing its rough moves. It finishes its last rough depth cut and now goes to its finished depth cut of 50 thousandths of an inch. And the final step is to walk around the outside boundaries and do a 10 thousandths finish pass on the boundaries. And this is going to conclude our look at island facing. The last thing that we'd like to look at here in Mastercam, let's turn this toolpath display off. The last style of pocketing we'd like to look at is open pockets. So let's select the geometry for this. You can see that we've got one chain in our chain manager. And now if we turn the toolpath display on, we can see that we're using the open pocket to rough out and finish this end of the part. Let's go into the operations and look at the parameters for this. You can see that we're doing a rough style of zigzag, and we've got one finished pass of 10,000ths of an inch. And if we look at the pocketing parameters, we can see that the pocketing type is set to open. And this is going to enable our open pockets button. So if we click on that, we can see that the overlap percentage, or the percentage that we're going beyond the open pocket chain, is 125%. We've got our depth cuts turned on. And now if we go in to verify this, we can play it, and we can see that Mastercam is going to pocket out and finish this cutout in the end of our part. So Mastercam goes in and roughs that out with its roughing style, taking depth cuts. Finally, it comes in and does one finish move of 10,000ths around the outer boundary. And this concludes our look at pocketing inside Mastercam.